The title of the film is Forget Me Not. This is a catchphrase people have heard over and over again which demonstrates the slow pace of the film. The connotations of forget me not means do not forget me, which is evident to the audience. This highlights how the female protagonist does not want to be forgotten by her family members, as all they seem to do is argue and do not give her attention. It is also a phrase which would stick inside people's heads because it is a familiar saying and it is simple. The setting is a vital part of an opening sequence. I started with an establishing shot of a council house which conveys the deprived environment that the girl is living in. This is conventional of the social realism genre, as social realism battles with the typical hard-hitting situations. I wanted to convey that the main character already has struggles in her life, making the audience feel empathy for her as it is a tough condition to live in. The most obvious prop within my opening sequence would be the cigarette, which is immediately introduced when the audience meet the character. I wanted to foreshadow that the main character already has stressful circumstances in her life, and I believe that showing my character smoking would add sympathy for the character. I dressed the actor in baggy clothes such as a grey t-shirt and a loose-fitting denim jacket. I also made the character wear leggings, as it is a stereotypical component that chavvy girls will wear leggings. I wanted to convey to the audience that the girl had to adapt to the type of clothing which was stereotypical of the social realism genre. I did not want to dress my actor in a tracksuit like Mia from Fish Tank, as I believed that it was unnecessary for my character to wear clothing as excessive as that. It is a conventional social realism that there is a dull and ominous atmosphere. Many social realism films add the blue tint to the clips to make them appear monotonous. However, when it came to adding a tint over numerous clips, the camera quality did not appear as good. I wanted to produce my opening sequence to the best of my ability and did not believe that adding a tint would look as good. However, there is still a monotonous atmosphere, as fortunately the day I was filming it was due to rain. This meant that the skies were grey and cloudy, which gave an accurate representation of the mood of the opening sequence. I also used a continuity technique called match on action twice during the opening sequence. This is when two separate clips cut to one swift action. I used it during the door slam and also when she throws her cigarette on the ground and stamps it out. I used a quirky yet simple font similar to the look of Juno's title sequence to convey social realism. It was basic and nothing exquisite because I did not have a high budget to produce an elaborate title sequence, which many social realism films cannot. Also, the colour scheme of my title was monochrome. This was because independent British production studios do not have the expenses for fancy colours, and it is conventional to social realism, of which I wanted to stick to. The title also represents the target audience by having a curvy and quirky font style. It is not suitable for a male audience because otherwise the style would be blocky and without curves. The conventions of opening sequences is to present enigma codes for the audience so that they continue to watch the film. The first half of my opening sequence is several different location shots to make the poor area look neglected and derelict. This sets the scene for the main character when she is walking to her house. She is also seen smoking, which conveys that she needs to relieve stress. She is wasting time sitting outside her front door to prevent herself going in the house to be involved in the argument that is heard throughout the second half of the opening sequence. However, the audience at this point does not know why she is sitting outside her house. Has she been involved in one of the arguments before? What happened to her mum at the end of the opening sequence? How has it affected her? What are the parents arguing about this time? The audience do not know. These are some of the enigma codes that the opening sequence represents. We also know that she is living in a rundown area, so my audience knows that she is not living a very good life. Similar to how it was suggested before, the first half of my opening sequence presents social realism accurately. There are many shots of neglected areas to convey the social realistic themes such as graffiti and the broken fence. There are also shots of a council estate to establish how the character is living in a poor area. Also, the opening sequence is slow-paced, which many social realism films are. My main character is a teenage female who, as you can see, lives in a rough area with an appalling family upbringing. During the opening sequence, she is not seen talking to anyone, which demonstrates how lonely she is. I wanted to encapsulate that she does not have anyone to occupy her time with, so she wastes her time outside the front door of her house forced to listen to the argument which is happening inside her home. The use of enigma codes throughout the opening sequence is also a great introduction to the insight of the intensity of the relationship between the main character and her parents, for the reason that the audience feels sympathy for the character. The character is also never named, which also conveys that she is lonely and that possibly no one knows who she is. It is important to have diegetic sound throughout the opening sequence so that the opening sequence does not look like a music video or a trailer. However, non-diegetic sound is also important as it contributes to establishing the setting of the opening sequence. For example, I have heavy bass music in my opening sequence which would not be seen against a setting where a middle-class society would live because it is not conventional. Sound also adds to the specific genre of film. Although a few people said that the soundtrack I chose did not look like it fitted against the film, I believe that it was conventional and a stereotypical choice to make.